Uh, we are the Exceptional Conservative Show live for the nation's capital. This is Open Heart Closed Case Night in loving memory of our daughter Shanice Milton, who was killed on the 27th of May 2015. Her case has gone unresolved. And normally on these particular nights, we focus on the matters of public safety. Specifically, we look at the whole idea of unresolved homicides, missing persons, and teen suicides. Tonight, we have a very special group of men with us who believe that we should focus on bringing back worship for the healing of not only our nation but our children. David Torres, who is a columnist as well as commentator on An Hour with Dave. You can find it on YouTube at USALA Media. And his partner in crime, none other than Phillip Fisher, senior pastor at Center of Universal Divinity in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It is such a great honor to have the two of you on the air with us tonight, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
All right. Listen, there are those who would say that public safety is job number one for a mayor, for a governor. It is their responsibility to keep people safe. And quite frankly, these governors and mayors have been doing a gosh darn good job in terms of keeping people from all hurt, harm, and danger thanks to COVID. It is important that we close churches so that people don't get sick. So I got to ask the two of you right now, why is it that you all don't see the importance of keeping people safe?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't understand how closing a church is keeping anybody safe. We're losing the basic understanding of coming together as family, as worshiping, as thanking God. God cured leprosy, why can't he cure COVID? We're turning our backs on God when we're closing the church doors. So I think that I have a few words that I could personally say to some of the pastors and governors and mayors that are closing churches down, because I feel you're turning your back on God. Forget that they're keeping everybody safe. How much safer can you be than worshiping? Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, David, that does make sense for a lot of people. But Pastor Phillip Fisher, I have to ask you here, sir, don't you feel somewhat thankful that the governor of Pennsylvania, that the mayor of Philadelphia shut down the churches? Because that is a common place for people to come and gather, and it could have possibly made it a super spreader site for many people with COVID. I mean, a lot of people go to church on Sunday once a week. That's a definite place where they can spread COVID.
Well, Pastor, are you there? Frankly, to be honest with you, I can understand, sir, where you're coming from, but some of it may be misleading.
Yeah.
Most of the people that died from the COVID-19 were seniors in nursing homes that were actually placed in nursing homes by the governors and the mayors, and knowing that these people had the virus to begin with.
Exactly.
So, you can't blame it on the churches. If the churches can look at it and say keep a safe distance, and they should be allowed to still be able to worship God. That the people dying, up to 60% of the people that died from the COVID virus in the major cities died in nursing homes.
Exactly.
That was the ones to take the patients in, knowing that they had it. So I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, let me take that back. But I think the mayors and the governors have done a horrible job, and they're lying to the public.
Well, let's go with this, David, because I concur with you. I really do. But I got to play devil's advocate with you because there's a population of people.
I was getting a little nervous over here.
No, because there are populations that listen and they want to hear their viewpoint expressed. And when it comes to the whole idea of churches, the majority of churches in America, somewhere in the area, maybe 75 to 80% of churches in America have less than 200 people in the pews on Sunday morning. Um,
Correct.
you know that in Philadelphia, you're more likely to come across a street preacher with a former liquor store or a former laundromat that has a seating of about 20 people in it preaching on a Sunday morning, more so than you have filled up churches. But most people focus on the whole idea of the people who get hurt the most when churches get closed are the pastors, because then they can't make any money. But that's not true. Am I right about that?
Well, yeah, that's not true. They still get their their money's coming in. I mean, some of these people are very loyal, and remember that a lot of these small pastors, small churches, actually, some of them have their side jobs that they do,
Yeah.
other than being pastors. So, there is different ways, there is different means, and if they truly worship, the church will take care of them
Exactly.
and their members. So.
But in this particular case, since we both agree and concur that the adults are not the primary persons who get hurt when the church, and some people would say, well, Ken, that's a weird thing to say, because the majority of the church is filled with adult black women or adult women in general, and quite frankly, adults spend a great deal of their time in the worship experience and other activities during the week at the church. But there's a group of people who aren't being spoken about, and those are children. Can you explain to America why we should be concerned that churches are closed and its impact on children?
It's a big impact on children. First of all, children at a younger age, especially if they don't come from the nuclear family, sometimes the churches is the closest thing to a nuclear family, seeing both males and females worship together. Also, children are not susceptible to the virus itself. So depending on the age of the child, as they get younger, them children their brains are like little sponges. That's where they're going to learn right from wrong, good from bad, whichever way you want to put it, black and white, the whole bit. They're not going to get the virus, and because then as the younger your age is, the less susceptible you are to the virus itself. Which is why I don't understand why they're keeping churches closed. That affects too much. Church and school in a child's life is where they learn to socialize and where they learn morals and where they get their values from. Parents, church, school.
Exactly. But David, let me just say this. We spend billions of dollars a year on public education. Can't parents and students sacrifice and stay home for the good of the teachers union?
Why? I mean, we spend billions of dollars a year on public education. Let me ask you this: if you have a family at home, a mother who's trying hard, or grandparents who are raising their children, okay? Because we've lost since the late 60s, early 70s, the government told us, take away the nuclear family, tell me your parents, your husband ain't home, or get rid of your husband, we're going to give you a bigger welfare check. So they affected the nuclear family there. Now they're telling you to keep the schools closed. 44 to 50% of the teachers in public schools, their children go to private schools. So why do you think that their children can get educated, but a parent at home or grandparent trying to raise 2 or
Exactly. You
You know,
exactly. You know, one of the groups of the political party that always says that they care is one of the biggest opponents to reopening schools and reopening churches. How important is it for kids to have access to reading the King James Bible?
well, it's funny because if you look at the attack on the school, on the public school system itself, when I grew up, you had you pledge allegiance to the flag, you had prayers in school, you were allowed to pray before you took an exam. There's a president, a man running for president now, and I'm not going to give him props,
Mm-hmm.
okay, who prefer that you learn more about the Muslim understanding of their preaching, where him himself got on the stage and said, we need to have more education in the schools when it comes to the Muslim way of worshiping. But he never said we need to bring back prayer into the schools again. So they want you not to learn Christianity, but learn the other side. That makes absolutely no sense to me.
Absolutely no sense at all. David Torres is with us tonight. He is the host of An Hour with Dave, USALA Media. He's also running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District of Pennsylvania, the lovely state just north of Maryland. Um, to get exact in terms of our conversation tonight with children, and that's why we really wanted Senior Pastor Phillip Fisher with us tonight, but it is the role of the pastor to feed the sheep. And in feeding the sheep, there is counseling that's going on in the class, in the worship experience. There is one-on-one intimate interventions. There is education that's going on. And that whole idea of socializing to morals is very, very important. And so I want if you could speak to the whole idea of the socialization in the church. What exactly are children missing besides doing the Easter play or the Christmas play?
Well, in socializing there, they learn to, you can take a group of child, doesn't matter what color you are. You put a group of children together and they don't see the color. They learn to socialize, to care for one another, to play together. They don't learn the hatred later on. Later on is where they learn the hatred, either at home, in the streets, or elsewhere, where they got the wrong influence. When you're in a church environment, you're learning how to deal with different age people. Children are learning how to deal with good and bad, right from wrong. And you're not getting that in the streets.
Yeah.
Taking that away from the children is taking away the way for them to understand how to deal with the differences. You're not getting it.
Exactly.
They need to have the churches open. They need to stop allowing them to get told to close the church doors. I don't know anywhere, but I'm not a pastor or minister, anywhere in the Bible that it says, get into the church, close the doors, and just celebrate inside. I believe it has something to do with go out to the people or go out to my sheep and take care of them and bring them in and speak the word to them. I don't think it said anything about closing no doors.
Exactly. And one of the great things about churches that I must promote is the fact that churches spend a lot of time feeding the poor during the course of the week. And the poor aren't just the homeless individuals that you see on the street. There's a single mother out there who's got to make ends meet. There's the individual who's just coming off of unemployment, who's trying to make the next day, per se, and to feed their children. And so right now, the U.S. government spends billions of dollars through the Department of Agriculture in providing food stamps and as well nutrition for children in the classroom. But as well, millions of dollars are spent tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of dollars are spent annually by churches to feed the poor. Doesn't that create an imbalance for churches because the children can't go to school and get the food that they need, so they have to be more dependent on the church?
Well, they do have to be more dependent on the church, of course, because they're not receiving that help with the school. Some of the children that go to school, that's one of the most important meals they get because they may not be getting all the substances at home. There's a lot of issues that happen at home when it comes to the poor and people who are struggling. That meal that they get at lunchtime could be their meal when they miss breakfast.
Yeah.
So that's an important meal. The churches try hard to subsidize and help and have their little food banks. I know that Pastor Phil himself and myself have large amounts of food that we've given out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. You're back to the same thing. The destruction of the nuclear family, and that's one of the things that's going on now with the protesting and the fighting. If you look at the protesters that are out there fighting, they look at what their cause is. They don't even want the nuclear family established.
Yeah.
And it's purposely done. The more you destroy the nuclear family and hold the churches back and hold the schools back, the better control you have of the masses. And that can't happen. They'll stay hungry. They won't flourish. There won't be nothing out there for them to fight to try to have a dream.
Mm-hmm.
This is America. You're supposed to have a dream as a child.
David Torres with us tonight. And because there's a big announcement we're going to make in a few moments, and I really want Americans to chime in and to become a part of this big announcement. But David, in February of this year, when the COVID-19 had not killed one American and we had not had one American die from COVID until the first week of March. And this president was working feverishly to shut down our borders and to protect us and keep us safe. There were companies like Walmart and Target and many of the major box stores like Costco and all the others that went to the White House and virtually said, dude, you can't close us. We got to stay open because we have to not only feed the people, but we have to make a profit. We are the biggest employer of Americans across the country. And so the churches didn't do the same thing. And so Americans are thinking, or this is what I hear from many people on the left, that quite frankly, if the pastors really wanted to open their churches, they would have done it in the first week of February, first week of March. They would not have shut down at all. They would have kept going. How come the churches didn't do what Walmart and Target and Costco and Amazon and all the big ones did?
Well, because they allow themselves to be controlled. You pastors are responsible for the flock and the people in the surroundings of their church. They're supposed to stand up, not take orders. I believe it's give unto Caesar and give unto God what is God. Why are you allowing the government to get in the middle of what your responsibility is? They should have stuck together. We've had several funerals. Thank God for Senator Lewis, who passed away, who was an icon, who was a good man, who fought through everything to get us to the point that we are now when it comes to segregation and all. He deserved a tremendous funeral. But if you look, they're picking and choosing when they're allowing groups to get together. The churches should have never turned their back on the people, and more important, should have never turned their back on God. Because I feel they turned their back on God by allowing their doors to be closed and not keeping up with their responsibility.
But here's what the world will say to you. Remember when we allowed the churches to open and there were pastors who said that they would never close their churches and they got sick of COVID and they died? Isn't that a sign to you that churches are at great risk?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, because remember, people who are sick now, who were getting sick in some of these churches, they didn't catch it in the church. They
Yep.
may have not had the proper practices at home or outside. COVID has no limit to where you can catch it. The
Mm-hmm.
point of the whole thing is, and to me, I go out there, I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
When Christ died, did not he take care of leprosy? Did he pick up the raise people from the dead? I mean, if you're truly a Christian and believe in what you're supposed to believe in,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to close them doors.
Exactly. I gotta ask you here. I gotta ask you here because many people throughout the world remember the scriptures where Jesus says, "Pick up your cross and follow Him," and the cross becomes a symbol, and they wear it around their neck, they wear it in their earrings, they wear it on their rings. They get tattooed with the cross. But now the cross seems to be replaced with something else that people have a great deal of faith in, and even cultishly go to the point of nearly fighting individuals to make sure that they are wearing it. It's called the mask. And I wanted to get your thoughts in terms of children being forced to wear masks now.
I think listen to, the government is using science against us, and it's been coming for a long time. They believe in that it was a Big Bang theory that created mankind, not God.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first thing. So they use science to that point. When that didn't seem to catch on with enough Christians, now they're saying the kids have to wear masks. But what they don't tell you is, look at statistics and look up for yourself. Children do not catch the COVID virus.
Well, they
Such a low percentage.
exactly, they do, but the thing that you're basically saying is they don't catch it the way adults do, and adults over the age of 55 are at greatest risk of dying, and even over 55, the bottom line is we've had 170,000 deaths out of 5 million cases, and we were told by Johns Hopkins that we were going to actually have something in the area of 200 million cases of the actual virus itself, and that 2.5 million people would die right here on the streets. And none of that happened. None of that happened.
It didn't happen, and if you look at statistics, they're telling you now, they're lying again to the public. Okay, they're telling the public that we have the largest number around the world of people dying of COVID. What they don't tell you is, they'll say, yeah, look at Europe, look at all the France, look, et cetera. What they don't tell you is the United States is humongous. If you look at the population of the United States, and then take the number of people who have passed away from the COVID virus, and then you go to all these countries that they're saying that are much better off than we are, look at their population. It's nowhere near the size of ours. If you took them countries and combined them to get to the size of ours, you'll see that our numbers are actually better than all of them together.
Yeah, very true. David Torres with us tonight. Sir, you have such a commitment to God, and I admire it. So, and your work with Senior Pastor Phillip Fisher has moved you all to do something very special for Labor Day weekend. I want you all, if you would, take a few moments, if you could promote that right now.
Well, we're asking all churches to take on Sunday I'm challenging every pastor. Doesn't matter what religion you want to be. If you're Baptist, Protestant, Pentecostal, Catholic, Jewish faith, open your church out. Go outside and tell the government that's enough already.
Wow. Now, when I was on the call, you had people from Haiti and other places around the world. Are you being well received right now with this whole idea of opening up churches? Because you know, pastors like to take sabbaticals, and when it's easy like this, you know, they can always blame the government for their long sabbatical. You know, opening church on Sunday morning ain't that appealing anymore when you can play golf. Come on now.
We've had good and bad results. I had more and more churches today. I had two churches, two gentlemen. The one guy who told me, his very young pastor, who told me he's going to contact me again on Monday, but he wants to play a role in it. And he said to me, I don't have a big church. I said, doesn't matter. Whatever church you got, whether it be 5, whether it be 10, whether it be 100 or 1,000, or everybody, if you can take your people outside, the next guy takes his people outside, and we go across, don't pay attention to the color of the skin. I don't care what your color your skin are, what you are. Just open your doors, you know, and let's get out there. You know, if you have to, get some coolers, get some Kool-Aid, and let's hear the people here. How is it that we cannot open our church to serve our God, but you still could have an abortion center open, you still have liquor stores open, you have bars serving on the sidewalks of the streets. Oh, no drug corners will close. Did they close any drug corners there?
Nah.
Their school is over?
Prostitutes still walking the streets. Nothing shut down.
Casinos are open, but you're not opening the church. Are you serious?
Now,
You know, and I'm telling you, I'm not a pastor, but to me, you're lying to your faith. That's my opinion. I'm sorry if anybody gets offended. Well, I'm not sorry if you get offended, because if you got offended to me telling you you're lying, then something hit a nerve.
there you go. You're absolutely right. There's no excuse for America's churches to be closed. And one of the things, and we will take the hardcore break in just a little bit. But I just wanted to say here that people don't understand the importance of the church environment for kids. It is a place of refuge from the storms of life, not just for adults, but for those children who are witnessing domestic violence exploding in their homes, who are witnessing opioids epidemic exploding in their homes, who are witnessing a sense of isolation and despair and depression breaking out in their homes. And the unfortunate thing is they're stuck. They can't go anywhere. Where do they go?
They go. That's exactly the point. But you see, it's a very smart move by a government that wants to control you, and most of this control is happening in the inner city, the big cities, and they're controlling, and it's turning out to be a political game, because they can control you. Most of these cities are going to come back and tell you they need more federal money for trash collections. They need more federal money to make schools safer. They need more federal money. And every one of these cities, I'm telling you now on the radio publicly, I believe that every one of these major cities that are going to tell us that they need more federal money from taxpayers. We can't collect more federal taxpayers' money if they're not working.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to open up the city. But every one of these cities that claim is going to claim hard for billions of dollars have mismanaged their city's funds prior to the pandemic.
Exactly. I want to also discuss with you very briefly the role of the pastor. And I know that you're not a pastor. I'm a former pastor. But the role of the pastor is to protect his flock and to feed his sheep. Do you believe that America's pastors have done both of those during this pandemic?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. Very few have done it. I think they've played the game in going to try. I've seen some churches do, yes. I have. But many of churches, if all the churches open their doors and did their part, this pandemic would be easier to deal with and the crisis would be easier to deal with. No, I don't believe that they've done their part. I think that they've abandoned more and gone along with science and with what the government wants them to do than what the Bible tells them to do.
Exactly. Now, I just want to say this to America. In February, Dr. Fauci said, "Don't worry about COVID. It's not going to be that big a thing. And in addition to that, you don't need a mask." By April, he's telling everyone to wear a mask. And now he's telling everyone to wear goggles and a mask. And just a few weeks ago, a study came out which basically said that the mask is useless. It is only a tool to make you feel better or feel like you're doing something during the pandemic to fight the pandemic. Wasn't that what faith was for? I don't know.
You know what? They flip-flop so much.
But that's science.
The science is, I mean, we need science. We know we need science.
Yeah.
We know we need to grow. But science can't replace what's a fact. Science is research, science is learning, science. What's in that book is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you can't dispute it, and you can't argue about it, and you can't change it. You know, science is going to grow. Thank God for science.
Exactly.
But, you know, if it isn't for God opening up your mind, we would all be sitting there trying to figure out how to start a fire back in the caves.
Exactly. Dave, there are some people who are asking right now because the Lord has pricked their heart. They listen to you and they understand, you know, come on, yeah, I've been playing that game. You know, I didn't encourage my pastor to really open the doors. I'm fearful about going to jail, too, because I hear that they're going to arrest me, even though they didn't arrest protesters or rioters or looters, but they will arrest me for going to church. So how can I participate in this? What do I have to do? How do I get in contact with you and make this happen for my church on Labor Day weekend?
Well, there's two ways you can try to get through on my radio station. You can try to call my phone number. You can go to Torres 2020 for Congress and leave me messages there, and we can get to your pastor, get to everybody. Open up. Listen, there's two things that the government fears: knowledge and votes.
Mm-hmm.
They are not going to lock up every church that opens up because those are votes.
Mm-hmm.
They will be definitely afraid if your church opens up clear across this nation. Every church opens up. I guarantee they're not going to lock it up. First of all, when are they going to lock it up? They close the courtroom down.
We living in prisoner's paradise.
The criminals know they're selling their drugs and everything out in the open. How many more people are dying out in the street? They know they're not going to get locked up. I don't understand why the pastors are worried about it.
Exactly. Now, there's some people who are sitting in church who sit at home and they say, well, I go to church because it's on video every Sunday. You know, it's the same thing, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's nowhere near the same thing. I mean, I appreciate science.
Yep.
Because it lets those who are home who can't make it to the church see the church services. They watch them. There's several programs I watch on television myself. But I like going and seeing your neighbor there and seeing a friend there and saying hi. And after church, a lot of churches have a little something to eat and socialize. When you start losing all that, it's a big difference. You're locked in your house. You're looking at the same four walls. You can look at it on YouTube or on your video, but is that the same thing as being there?
No.
Feeling the presence, worshiping together? Again, I'm not a pastor, but I remember saying, where 1 and 2 and 3 gather, I am there.
Yeah, exactly. And as you were speaking, I was thinking the simple fact of the matter is that it is in that house that the needs of the people are met. We originally created video and television and radio ministries to reach the sick and the shut-in. Now we're trying to reach the healthy and quarantined. And that's just not right. That's just not right.
No, they totally flipped it around on us. And if you're looking at, you got to be very careful of what's going on when it comes to the churches. They took the church out of schools. They took the praying out of schools. They don't want kids in high school and college to kneel down before they start a game. No thanking God. They don't want crosses hung up in cemeteries. They want to tear crosses down wherever they stand because it offends 1 or 2 people. But let me tell you something. There's a cross on my porch. It offends you. Let me know so I'll make you one. Maybe by holding it, you'll feel a little more comfortable.
You feel it? It's called the mass replacement theory. We'll give you a cross instead. This cross worked. I don't know if that mask ever will. Because everybody who's ever gone to the hospital had a mask on. I'm just saying. I don't think it worked. So,
But think about it. You know that where our unclaimed and our veterans are. Okay? They want all the crosses taken down where the veterans are being buried.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's that big cross that sits in Iowa, I believe it is?
Yes.
That to take it down?
I apologize. Go right ahead.
It offends people. If you're walking down the street, somebody sneezes and say, "God bless you," oh, you offended somebody.
Exactly.
I'm not hiding my cross. I don't walk on water, and I'm not the biggest person out there. I know that. But you know what? You ain't taking my Bible. You're not burning Bibles in front of me because that's what's happening. If you look around in Washington, did they not try to burn the church down?
They did. They did indeed.
Right.
They did indeed.
Okay. They had groups in Portland burning Bibles.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, if there was a little guy about 5'6" or 5'5" with a funny mustache. I believe his name was Adolf Hitler. Remember, people need to go back and start looking at how Adolf Hitler started. Before you knew it, you couldn't burn your books. You couldn't have crosses. And anybody that was not going with what he wanted was sent to the gas chambers.
Exactly.
Right now, today now, human trafficking, slavery, abuse of women are happening now in Africa and in other countries.
Exactly.
Today.
David.
And it's growing and it's repeating itself.
David Torres with us tonight. How can people get in contact with you? Because I'm telling you, I'm coming to Philadelphia. I personally will be in Philadelphia to worship with you all at 2 o'clock on that Sunday afternoon before Labor Day. And I want everyone to know that you don't have to go to Philadelphia, but you should make certain that your church opens up its doors, open up its parking lot, find some place in America to worship because your children need you most. How can people get in contact with you?
They can contact me through Usula Radio, which is on the internet. They can contact me through Torres 20 2020. They contact me there. They can also, if they wanted to, leave some information with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
They could also do that. And we know that you and I are working on something for the public. I don't know if you want to talk about it tonight.
Yeah, we'll do it at a different day, but certainly it's going to be huge, and I want to make sure the two of you are with me when we do that. And whatever you do, please explain to Pastor Phillip Fisher, the senior pastor at the Center for Universal Divinity, that the heathen who wanted to interview him did not want to interfere with his prayer. There you go.
I'll get on him because he was being a little slick. But you know what? He's probably caught up in prayer real heavy. And Pastor Phil also deals with young homeless people.
Yes.
We're seeing more and more homeless, younger and younger and younger kids to where they're getting into the teens. And he tries to get them off the streets before the streets get too much control.
Exactly.
And I know he was dealing with a couple different situations.
Exactly. David, he is an awesome man. Pastor Phillip Fisher Jr. Will be in Philadelphia. We'll have David and also Phillip back on hopefully sometime next week with bigger details. But God bless you all. Keep Labor Day weekends Sunday open because you're going to go to worship. God bless you, man.
Take care. God bless. Take care.
Thank you.